Sir, this vehicle's being towed. You can't park here.
Officer, that's my spot.
Yeah, you wish. Back up.
Okay. What makes you think this car is illegally parked?
Because you don't look like you work here.
On a crisp October morning outside the Brooklyn County Courthouse, a rookie officer made a mistake that would cost the city millions and destroy his own career before it ever began. Officer Ryan Kelton, 23 years old and barely 2 months out of the academy, had been assigned to courthouse parking enforcement, a task usually considered impossible to mess up. Yet, at 8:12 a.m., his body camera captured him confronting a black man in a tailored Navy suit standing beside a black sedan parked in a clearly marked reserved judicial staff-only space. Kelton insisted the vehicle was illegally parked and ordered a tow truck, speaking with a false authority of someone determined to prove he belonged in uniform. The man he confronted was Chief Judge Marcus Ellison, the highest-ranking judicial officer in the county, preparing to preside over a major sentencing hearing that morning. Within minutes, Kelton's arrogance, assumption, and unchecked bias would trigger a scandal that ended in a $17 million settlement. Before we continue, where are you watching from? If this is your first time here, please hit subscribe. Stories like these need to be shared, and your support helps us bring more truth to light. Brookwood County Courthouse sat at the center of downtown Brookwood, a mid-sized city in the upper Midwest with a population of about 250,000. The courthouse was an imposing structure, 5 stories of limestone and glass, built in the 1970s and renovated in 2015, housing 14 courtrooms, chambers for 12 judges, offices for prosecutors and public defenders, and administrative facilities for county legal services. The building operated on strict parking protocols. The front lot was designated for public visitors and court staff. The side L lot, accessible through a security gate requiring keycard entry, was reserved exclusively for judicial officers, senior court administrators, and certain security personnel. Each space was clearly marked with signage indicating restrictions and specific role assignments. October 17th was a Thursday. The temperature was in the low 50s. The sky partly cloudy. The morning air crisp with the promise of autumn. The courthouse would be busy that day. 12 hearings scheduled. 3 jury trials in session. Dozens of attorneys, witnesses, and defendants moving through security, conducting the daily business of justice. Chief Judge Marcus Ellison, 51 years old, arrived at the courthouse at 8:09 a.m. in his black BMW sedan. He'd been Chief Judge of Brookwood County for 3 years, appointed to the position after 17 years as a trial judge and 5 years before that as a prosecutor. He was the first black chief judge in the county's history, a distinction he carried with both pride and the weight of knowing that his conduct would be scrutinized more carefully than his predecessors. Marcus had been raised in Brookwood, attended public schools, earned his undergraduate degree at the University of Wisconsin, and graduated from Harvard Law School. He'd returned to Brookwood specifically to serve his community, turning down more lucrative offers from large firms of work as a public defender initially, then as a prosecutor before being appointed to the bench. He had a reputation for being fair, thorough, and uncompromising when it came to courtroom decorum and procedural integrity. That Thursday morning, he was preparing for a major sentencing hearing, a high-profile case involving public corruption that had drawn media attention for months. He needed to review final pre-sentencing reports, confirm legal precedents, and ensure his courtroom was ready for what would likely be an emotionally charged proceeding. He pulled into his assigned parking space, the one clearly marked reserved Chief Judge Marcus Ellison in the judicial side lot. He'd parked in that exact spot every working day for 3 years. His key card had opened the gate. His space was clearly designated. Everything about his presence there was legitimate, authorized, and routine. He stepped out of his car wearing a navy suit, white dress shirt, burgundy tie, his standard courtroom attire when not in robes. His briefcase sat on the back seat containing the sentencing files he'd been reviewing the night before. He stood beside his car for a moment, checking his phone for any last-minute messages from his clerk. The morning air cold enough to see his breath. That's when Officer Ryan Kelton approached. Kelton was 23 years old, 2 months out of the police academy, assigned to courthouse security detail, a position typically given to rookies as a low-risk way to gain experience before patrol duties. His responsibilities included monitoring public entrances, assisting with security screening, and enforcing parking regulations in the public lot. The judicial lot was outside his assigned area, but he'd been walking the perimeter of the building when he noticed a black BMW. Kelton's academy evaluations had included concerning notes. Officer Kelton demonstrates confidence that occasionally exceeds his competence, tendency to assert authority in situations where patience would be more appropriate, would benefit from additional training on de-escalation and respectful communication. But he'd passed the minimum requirements and the department needed officers, so he'd been cleared for duty. When Kelton saw Marcus standing beside the BMW in the judicial lot, his immediate thought wasn't judicial officer arriving for work. His thought was someone who doesn't belong here. And that assumption was shaped entirely by seeing a black man in a suit standing beside an expensive car in a restricted area. Kelton's Axon Bodycam activated as he approached, capturing everything from his perspective. His stride was purposeful, his posture rigid in the way rookie officers often carry themselves when trying to project authority they don't yet naturally possess. "Sir, this vehicle is being towed. You can't park here." Marcus turned, his expression shifting from focused concentration to mild confusion. "I am aware it's restricted. That's my spot." Kelton actually laughed, a dismissive, condescending sound that the body cam captured clearly. "No, it's not. Back up, please." Marcus took a step forward, not aggressive, but genuinely puzzled. "Officer, what makes you think this car is illegally parked?" Kelton's response was immediate and damning. "Because you don't look like someone who works in this building." The statement hung in the air, its meaning unmistakable. Marcus' expression shifted, confusion giving way to recognition of exactly what was happening. He dealt with assumptions his entire life, had been questioned in spaces where he belonged countless times, but still carried a sting when it came from someone wearing a badge. He reached into his jacket pocket slowly and pulled out a black leather credential wallet. He opened it and held it at eye level so Kelton could see clearly. Inside was his judicial identification card. Chief Judge Marcus Ellison, Brookwood County Circuit Court, complete with official seal, photo, and security hologram. Marcus' voice remained calm, controlled, but carried unmistakable authority. "Chief Judge Marcus Ellison, this is my courthouse, and that is my parking space." The body cam captured Kelton's face perfectly in that moment. The color draining, the eyes widening, the sudden realization that he just made a catastrophic error. His hand, which had been gesturing dismissively moments earlier, dropped to his side. But instead of immediately apologizing and retreating, Kelton's training failure and ego combined into a worse response. He'd already called the tow truck on his radio before approaching. Now he stood frozen, trying to figure out how to undo what he'd set in motion without admitting he'd been completely wrong from beginning. If this moment happened to you, what would your reaction be? Let me know in the comments. Marcus stood quietly, watching Kelton process the situation, his patience wearing thin. After 17 years as a trial judge, he developed the ability to remain composed under pressure. But this was testing even his considerable restraint. He'd been questioned about belonging in his own courthouse, in his own parking space, while preparing for a major hearing by someone who should have been focused on actual security concerns rather than making assumptions about who belonged where. "Officer, I need you to cancel that tow truck." Kelton found his voice, though it had lost all its earlier authority. Chief Judge, I apologize. I didn't realize." "You didn't realize because you made an assumption without gathering any information. The sign on this space clearly identifies it as mine. The gate to this lot requires judicial staff credentials. My vehicle has appropriate parking permits visible on the windshield. You had multiple pieces of information available that would have prevented this encounter, but you chose not to verify any of them." A tow truck pulled into the lot at that moment. Having responded to Kelton's earlier call, the driver, recognizing the situation immediately when he saw the chief judge's parking sign and the judicial credentials visible in Marcus's hand, stopped his truck and waited, smart enough not to approach until he understood what was happening. Court staff arriving for their morning shifts began noticing the unusual scene. The chief judge standing beside his car, a young officer looking increasingly distressed, a tow truck idling nearby. Jennifer Chun, the chief judge's court clerk for the past 5 years, walked quickly over from the employee entrance. "Judge Ellison, is everything all right?" Marcus gestured toward Kelton. This officer has called a tow truck to remove my vehicle from my assigned parking space. Chen's eyes went wide. She looked at Kelton, at the clearly marked space, at the tow truck, back to Kelton. Officer, this is the chief judge. This has been his parking space for 3 years. What's going on? Kelton's face had gone from pale to red, embarrassment and panic competing. But instead of simply admitting his error, he tried to defend his actions. I saw an unauthorized vehicle in the judicial lot. I was enforcing parking regulations. Unauthorized. Marcus's voice remained calm, but carried an edge now. My credentials authorized my presence. My key card opened the gate. My parking permit is displayed. The signage identifies this as my space. On what basis did you determine I was unauthorized? Kelton couldn't answer because the only honest answer was the assumption that had driven his entire approach. That a black man, regardless of attire or credentials, couldn't possibly be the chief judge. More staff had gathered now, attracted by the unusual commotion. Court Security Supervisor Lieutenant David Martinez arrived, having been alerted by radio chatter about a situation in the judicial lot. He took in the scene instantly. The chief judge, the rookie officer, the tow truck, the growing crowd of witnesses. Officer Kelton, what's happening here? Kelton's voice was barely audible now. Sir, I initiated contact regarding what I believe to be an illegally parked vehicle. The driver has identified himself as Chief Judge Ellison. I might have made an error in judgment. Martinez turned to Marcus. Chief Judge, I apologize on behalf of courthouse security. Officer Kelton is new to his assignment. I'll be filing a full incident report and initiating an internal affairs review. Marcus nodded, his expression unreadable. Lieutenant, I appreciate that, but I want to be clear about what happened here. Your officer approached me based on an assumption about who I am rather than verification of facts readily available to him. He called a tow truck to remove my vehicle from my assigned space. And when I challenged his actions, his first instinct was to defend his judgment rather than admit error. That's not a training issue. That's a bias issue. At this point in the story, do you think the rookie should be suspended immediately or retrained? Comment your thoughts. Lieutenant Martinez was 48 years old, had been with courthouse security for 12 years, and had never dealt with anything like this before. Courthouse security incidents typically involve screening delays, unauthorized photography attempts, or occasional disruptive behavior by defendants or family members. Having a rookie officer attempt to tow the chief judge's car was unprecedented. He walked over to Kelton, his voice low but unmistakably angry. Did you even read the sign on that parking space? Kelton looked at the ground. I saw someone I didn't recognize in the judicial lot. That's not what I asked. Did you read the sign? No, sir. Martinez pointed at the clearly visible signage. Reserved Chief Judge Marcus Ellison. The letters were large, professionally printed, impossible to miss for anyone actually looking. That sign has been there for 3 years. The gate requires credentials. The vehicle has proper permits. What made you think this was an unauthorized vehicle? Silence. Because any answer Kelton gave would require acknowledging his bias. Martinez continued, his frustration evident. You're assigned to the public entrance. The judicial lot is not your responsibility. What were you doing over here? I was doing a perimeter walk. That's not part of your assignment. You're 2 months out of the academy. You don't modify your assigned duties without authorization. And when you encounter situations outside your expertise, you radio for guidance from someone with more experience. Instead, you made assumptions and called a tow truck to remove the chief judge's car from the chief judge's parking space outside the chief judge's courthouse. By this point, over a dozen court employees had gathered, some recording on their phones, all witnessing the dressing down of a rookie officer who'd made the worst possible mistake on what should have been a routine morning shift. The tow truck driver had wisely departed after being waved off by Martinez. Marcus stood beside his car, checking his watch. His sentencing hearing was scheduled for 9 a.m. It was now 8:27. He needed time to review files, prepare his courtroom, and ensure everything was ready. This encounter had already consumed 15 minutes he didn't have. Lieutenant, I need to get to my chambers. I have a hearing at 9. Of course. Chief Judge, again, I apologize. This will be fully investigated. Marcus nodded, gathered his briefcase from the back seat, and walked toward the courthouse entrance. Staff parted to let him through, some offering sympathetic looks, others shaking their heads at what they witnessed. He maintained perfect composure until he reached his chambers, closed the door, and sat at his desk, allowing himself a moment to process what had just happened. He'd been a judge for 17 years, had presided over thousands of cases, had sentenced defendants, ruled on complex legal matters, managed difficult attorneys and emotional families. But he'd never been made to feel like he didn't belong in his own courthouse until a rookie officer who'd been on the job for 2 months decided he looked suspicious. Jennifer Chin knocked softly and entered. "Judge, are you okay?" "I'm fine, Jennifer, but I'm not letting this go. Call my attorney. I'm filing a formal complaint with the department and a civil rights lawsuit. This needs to be documented and addressed. Do you think the rookie should have been fired on the spot? Yes or no? Tell me in the comments." Within 24 hours, the Bodycam footage had leaked. Court employees who'd witnessed the encounter had provided statements to media outlets. By Friday afternoon, local news stations were leading with the story. Rookie officer attempts to tow chief judge's car. Claims he doesn't look like he works there. The footage spread rapidly across social media platforms. Legal communities shared it with outrage. Civil rights organizations issued statements condemning the officer's conduct. Bar associations released formal comments supporting Chief Judge Ellison. The video was viewed over 8 million times in the first 48 hours. The comment sections reflected universal condemnation. Imagine trying to tow your boss's car. That officer's career is over before it started. The audacity of telling a chief judge he doesn't belong at his own courthouse. This is what implicit bias looks like. Assuming a black man in a suit can't possibly be the chief judge. The Brookwood County Sheriff's Department, which provided courthouse security, released a brief initial statement. "We are aware of an incident involving one of our officers and Chief Judge Ellison. The matter is under investigation. Officer Kelton has been placed on administrative leave pending review." But Monday morning, facing mounting public pressure and media scrutiny, the department held a formal press conference. Sheriff Patricia Henderson stood at a podium flanked by Internal Affairs Commander and the department's Public Information Officer. After reviewing body camera footage and witness statements, we have determined that Officer Ryan Kelton acted inappropriately when he confronted Chief Judge Marcus Ellison in the judicial parking lot. Officer Kelton made assumptions based on appearance rather than gathering factual information readily available to him. He exceeded his assigned duties, failed to verify parking authorization before calling for a tow, and demonstrated a concerning lack of judgment for someone in a law enforcement position. She paused, her expression grim. Officer Kelton's employment with this department has been terminated, effective immediately. We are implementing additional training protocols to ensure similar incidents do not occur, and we extend our sincere apology to Chief Judge Ellison for this unacceptable encounter. The termination was swift, unusually so for law enforcement, where problem officers typically face lengthy administrative processes before final employment decisions. But the clarity of the video evidence, the prominence of the victim, and the potential legal liability made quick action the only viable path. Officer Ryan Kelton's law enforcement career lasted exactly 2 months and 3 days. The body cam footage of him telling a chief judge he doesn't look like someone who works in this building would follow him permanently, making employment in any law enforcement capacity impossible. Chief Judge Ellison broke his public silence Tuesday evening, releasing a statement through his attorney. "The encounter outside my courthouse was deeply troubling, not because of the inconvenience it caused me, but because of what it represents. I am a chief judge. I have resources, platform, and legal knowledge to address what happened. But this kind of assumption-based policing happens to black people every day who don't have my advantages. They get questioned in their own neighborhoods, stopped in their own cars, challenged in their own workplaces. The only difference is that when it happens to me, it makes headlines. When it happens to them, it's Tuesday," he continued. Officer Kelton's termination is appropriate, but it doesn't address the systemic issues that produce his behavior. How does a rookie officer develop the belief that he can determine who belongs in a courthouse based on appearance? How does he get through academy training without learning to verify facts before taking action? How does he receive an assignment to courthouse security without understanding basic protocols about judicial parking? These are questions the department must answer if it wants to prevent future incidents. Should the judge have pressed charges personally? What would you do? Drop your thoughts below. 6 weeks after the parking lot encounter, Chief Judge Marcus Ellison filed a comprehensive federal civil rights lawsuit in U.S. District Court. The complaint named Officer Ryan Kelton individually, Lieutenant David Martinez as supervising officer, and Brookwood County Sheriff's Department. The legal claims were extensive and meticulously documented. Count 1, Fourth Amendment violation, unlawful seizure. Kelton's confrontation and threat to tow Marcus' vehicle constituted an unreasonable seizure of property without cause. Count 2, 14th Amendment violation, racial discrimination. Kelton's statement that Marcus didn't look like someone who works in this building revealed that the stop was motivated by racial bias. Count 3, violation of civil rights under color of law. Kelton uses authority as a law enforcement officer to harass Marcus based on race, violating federal civil rights statutes. Count 4, intentional infliction of emotional harm. Being publicly questioned about belonging in his own courthouse in front of staff and colleagues caused significant emotional harm. Count 5, interference with official duties. Kelton's actions delayed Marcus' preparation for a scheduled court hearing, interfering with judicial responsibilities. Count 6, municipal liability. The department's inadequate training, failure to properly supervise Kelton, and pattern of clearing officers for duty without sufficient preparation created conditions enabling the violation. Count 7, defamation. Kelton's public statements and actions impugned Marcus' professional reputation and implied criminal wrongdoing. The lawsuit sought $20 million in damages, comprehensive reforms to training and supervision protocols, and public acknowledgement of wrongdoing. The discovery phase revealed information that made the department's institutional negligence clear. Kelton's academy evaluations showed repeated warnings about overconfidence and poor judgment. His field training officer had recommended additional supervised duty before solo assignment. That recommendation had been overridden by administrative need to fill courthouse security position. 6 weeks after the parking lot encounter, Chief Judge Marcus Ellison filed a comprehensive federal civil rights lawsuit in U.S. District Court. The complaint named Officer Ryan Kelton individually, Lieutenant David Martinez as supervising officer, and Brookwood County Sheriff's Department. The legal claims were extensive and meticulously documented. Count 1, Fourth Amendment violation, unlawful seizure. Kelton's confrontation and threat to tow Marcus' vehicle constituted an unreasonable seizure of property without cause. Count 2, 14th Amendment violation, racial discrimination. Kelton's statement that Marcus didn't look like someone who works in this building revealed that the stop was motivated by racial bias. Count 3, violation of civil rights under color of law. Kelton uses authority as a law enforcement officer to harass Marcus based on race, violating federal civil rights statutes. Count 4, intentional infliction of emotional distress. Being publicly questioned about belonging in his own courthouse in front of staff and colleagues caused significant emotional harm. Count 5, interference with official duties. Kelton's actions delayed Marcus' preparation for a scheduled court hearing, interfering with judicial responsibilities. Count 6, municipal liability. The department's inadequate training, failure to properly supervise Kelton, and pattern of clearing officers for duty without sufficient preparation created conditions enabling the violation. Count 7, defamation. Kelton's public statements and actions impugned Marcus' professional reputation and implied criminal wrongdoing. The lawsuit sought $20 million in damages, comprehensive reforms to training and supervision protocols, and public acknowledgement of wrongdoing. The discovery phase revealed information that made the department's institutional negligence clear. Kelton's academy evaluations showed repeated warnings about overconfidence and poor judgment. His field training officer had recommended additional supervised duty before solo assignment. That recommendation had been overridden by administrative need to fill courthouse security position. The $17 million settlement was announced at a joint press conference 16 months after the parking lot encounter. Chief Judge Ellison stood at a podium flanked by his attorneys, facing dozens of cameras and reporters. This settlement represents accountability, He began, his voice carrying the same measure of authority he brought to his courtroom. But I want to be clear about what it means and what it doesn't mean. It means the county has acknowledged that what Officer Kelton did was wrong, was discriminatory, and was enabled by systemic failures in training and supervision. That acknowledgement matters. He paused, looking directly at the cameras. But money doesn't undo the experience of being told you don't belong in your own courthouse. It doesn't erase the humiliation of being questioned in front of colleagues and staff. It doesn't restore the sense that your professional accomplishments should be sufficient to establish your legitimacy. What this settlement can do is force institutional change that prevents the next person who won't have my resources or platform from experiencing the same discrimination. Marcus donated $5 million of settlement to establish the Judicial Diversity Fellowship Program, providing support for law students of color pursuing careers in the judiciary. He continued serving as chief judge, though the incident left lasting impact. He was more aware now of how staff watched him, more conscious of the symbolic weight he carried as the first black chief judge, more exhausted by the reality that even at the highest levels of achievement, assumptions about who belongs persist. Officer Ryan Kelton disappeared from public view after his termination. His law enforcement career had lasted 2 months. The Bodycam footage had been viewed over 20 million times, making him unemployable in any criminal justice capacity. He moved out of state within 6 months. His law enforcement aspirations permanently finished. The reforms implemented at Brookwood County Courthouse showed measurable results. Officers completed comprehensive training before courthouse assignments. Unnecessary contacts with staff dropped by 74%. No officer showed patterns of racially disparate interactions in the 2 years following implementation. The external monitors reports documented genuine progress. But Chief Judge Ellison's case remained extraordinary in one critical way. His position gave him power to demand accountability that most victims of racial profiling never have. Most people question about belonging in their own spaces don't have federal credentials, don't have media attention, don't have $17 million settlements forcing institutional change. They just have the violation, the exhaustion, and the daily reality that their right to exist in spaces they've earned remains conditional on others' perceptions. 3 years after the parking lot encounter, Marcus reflected in a Ray interview, "People sometimes ask if I've moved past it. The truth is, you don't move past being told you don't belong in your own courthouse. You integrate it into your understanding of how the world works. I'm still chief judge. I still park in that same space every day. But I'm also more aware now, more cautious, more conscious that my appearance can trigger assumptions that override obvious facts. That's the tax of being black in professional spaces. Carrying the knowledge that achievement doesn't always protect you from prejudice. The Bodycam footage remains online, a permanent record of how bias manifests in split-second assumptions. The rookie officer's career-ending mistake, the chief judge's measured response, the institutional failures that enable the encounter, 20 million views across platforms, a case study used in law schools, judicial training programs, and police mize. The parking space outside Brookwood County Courthouse still bears the sign, Reserved Chief Judge Marcus Ellison. The courthouse still operates daily, dispensing justice, managing cases, serving the community. But that space represents something larger now. A reminder that even the highest-ranking judicial officer can be questioned about belonging, that badges and credentials don't eliminate bias, that the cost of assumptions extends far beyond individual encounters. Officer Kelton learned the hard way that not everyone you disrespect is powerless. Some of them run the courthouse you work in. And that lesson, expensive for the county and career-ending for him, serves as a warning about what happens when bias operates as instinct and training fails to intervene. If you believe these stories matter, if you think officers who make racially discriminatory statements should face immediate termination, hit that subscribe button. We're exposing how inadequate training and unchecked bias create million-dollar disasters. We're demanding departments prioritize competence over convenience when clearing officers for duty. We're fighting for a system where achievement and credentials should be sufficient to establish legitimacy, where black professionals shouldn't have to defend their right to exist in spaces they've earned. This isn't about one rookie or one judge. It's about every person who's been told they don't belong in their own parking space, their own building, their own life.